part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. I love the comments from one of our fellow viewers and listeners. He said, you know what, Jarvis, I'm going to leave y'all a 5-star review because I don't want no smoke. Yeah, man. It's a Friday. So, yeah, if you don't leave a 5-star review today, it's Friday. I might just, have something for you if you don't get down like I feel like you need to. Because, hey, you want to spread the word about what we got going on. A lot of people have already been rocking with us. We're over 3,000 subscribers right now. I'm sorry, over 3,100 subscribers. Excuse me. I don't want to shortchange our 100 subscribers right there. But so we appreciate y'all for doing that. So keep liking, keep subscribing. We see you. We understand it, and we appreciate you very, very, very much. Now, T, there's a player that his days might be numbered in the city of Atlanta, playing professional sports in this city. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about whether or not the Braves can really win this division. And last but not least, and for the culture, T, I think I would be very upset if I lost an item or that was worth $70,000. We'll talk about all that. But first, Marcell Ozuna, T, was arrested for DUI and failure for a DUI early this morning, and I think this is the second consecutive year where he's been arrested, and I think that this season for Mr. Ozuna, it might end the same way it did last year as far as him not seeing him anymore for the rest of this season.
Yeah, you're looking at a timeline that does not look favorable for Marcell Ozuna. You go back about 15 months, and that's when everything kind of kicked up with the domestic violence charges against him, allegedly for striking his wife. And then about 4 months after that, he goes into this diversion program, which basically is like a treatment program, kind of anger management, that situation. And he comes out with what I would say seemed like a heartfelt apology to Braves country, and we all said, okay, fine, we can try to move on. Except, and I'm just going to be real with it. Yeah. It's difficult. He seems like a likable person, but Ozone, as time went on, the productivity just kept going down. And here's the thing. We all know that winning is a panacea. It cures everything. Winning and being successful normally cures everything. However, there are some things you're going to do in this life that if you are not winning, but especially if you're losing, then you absolutely cannot recover from that. So like you said, we fast forward to the last, I'd say 5 days, right? Because you're looking at the first game in the Mets series, no Ozuna, in the second game, in the third game. He's been so ghost this entire season, only batting .214 in 107 games. Honestly, Jarvis, I forgot about him not being in the game last night until I heard about him this morning with this DUI charge. And that's when I thought, oh, was Ozuna even in the lineup? Well, no, because sometime between midnight and 4:29 a.m., you were up in Gwinnett somewhere. Now you live in Sandy Springs, I'm just saying. And Truist Park is in Cobb County. So what are you doing at 4:29 in the morning in Gwinnett? We shall see as more details unfold. But ultimately speaking, this seems like, yes, it's the end of an era for Marcell Ozuna. The Braves gave him a second chance. I applaud them for that because a lot of organizations don't give players second chances. But I think if this turns out to be accurate, and I mean, if you've seen the mugshot and you've seen the police report already, it looks pretty damning, then I would say it's the end of the era, whether or not, I don't think it's necessarily like the NFL or NBA where there's a, professional conduct clause, but there's the ability to DFA him. And they might I can see the Braves doing that. They have released a statement that basically says they're not speaking on it at this time, but I think that will just allow them the opportunity to kind of gather their thoughts and determine what they're going to do with him.
And to be honest with you, though, but I think if they're going to DFA him now, they are owed a little bit over $30 million. So that is something that Alex Anthopoulos is definitely going to have to consider whether or not they want to do that, and go ahead and cut the check. But I think that they are in a space given what the president, or given what has already transpired, right? Like they've already gave him some grace by having him come back and and trying to figure things out and saying, hey, I'm a changed man and all of that. But now, given what William Contreras, Wild Bill, being able to be a more than a worthy DH who had actually made the All-Star team at that particular position. So he's been better. You got a guy like Vaughn Grissom who can step in once Ozzy Albies comes back. You have that you have that one in the chamber. So it's just so many options that the Braves have. And that there's really no reason outside of financial to keep him on this roster at this point. And I think that's something that I think the decision is probably going to be made pretty soon here.
Yeah, and I spoke to, I reached out to our Braves insider. Of course, he does the postcast for us, Grant McCauley, and I just asked him a question. And again, this is just Grant's opinion, so I want to lead off with that. But Grant is a very, very knowledgeable person in how these things might play out. And I just asked him the question. I was like, and considering the salary, and that kind of went out with that, like, all things considered, is DFAing a possibility? Is that an option? And I do think that when you look at the roster and the fact that Eddie Rosario is in left field, you can put Robbie Grossman in left field. And like you said, you can put Contreras, or even worst case scenario on a bad day, you can put Michael Harris II out in left field and be quite fine. And Lord knows that's where Ozuna was the most, even with the 214 average at the plate, he was the most alive.
He was terrible in outfield. Terrible.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it may be a situation where, yes, $30 million is a lot to have to carry, but it might be one of those situations where you just cut your loss and you just keep pushing.
No doubt about it. I think that's ultimately what's going to be the answer to this question, whether or not he's done in the city for the Atlanta Braves. And I think that's how it definitely ultimately ends. Now, speaking of, Atlanta, professional sports, the Atlanta Falcons have a tight end that they drafted last year. He only scored one touchdown. So I think that was something that was kind of, it's been on Kyle Pitts' mind, and he said it as such. He said every morning that's something I'm thinking about. Like, we can't have that again. That's a steady thing in the back of my mind. So when I hear that, T, I feel like that's something that he worked on in this offseason, and not necessarily from a pass catching standpoint, but I think there is a piece that I feel like he's added to his repertoire, and this is the piece of his game that he said that he wanted to put on display. I'll never forget it. I asked him going into the Philadelphia Eagles game last year, I was like, what do you want people to see? And the first words came out of his man's mouth was, I want to be able to show people that I can block.
Yes.
What? I was like, dude, you're supposed to be that calm and be that forward thinking, because when you think about it, a lot of people have questioned whether or not this dude can actually be a real tight end, or they just look at him and say, you know what, this dude's just a receiver. He just got tight end in front of his name. But I think that, even Dean Pease has kind of noticed that as well, that he's gotten better in his blocking. And that's one thing that you got to understand when you're talking about what these guys making that jump from year one to year two. I think that if you're talking about a scenario where Kyle Pitts, best case scenario, Kyle Pitts gets 50% better as a blocker than he was last year. You're talking about him being in on goal line plays and being able to hit with his hand in the dirt, being able to, for a defense to say, okay, Pitts is in the game, but they're in the run formation. I was like, oh, okay. Now you're thinking like, okay, what are they going to do now? So that's the element right there. I believe that Dean Pease was talking about when he's talking about it's a pain for a guy to be able to show that he can block like that. And I think that if Kyle Pitts, like I said, get about 50% better, I think I'll put some money that he'll have more than one touchdown in the red zone this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about the fact that there are a couple things as well. So going back to your first comments, which were about the touchdown ratio of 1 last season, I think that's the first place to start, because ultimately, like you said, that's not something where Kyle Pitts has to get better. That's something to where the Falcons just had to put better personnel around him, point blank.
Yes.
There had to be more weapons on the field so that he's not the obvious first option. And this year, although he is the first target. There are targets behind him in the way of Drake London, assuming, that he'll be back and ready to go healthy for the regular season. And also you have Brian Edwards, the same. You're hoping that he'll be out there and healthy for the regular season. And you have some quarterbacks that may be able to buy some time for him to get open and get some space between him
Right.
and the defender for him to be able to then take it to the house. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that because I think we're going to see more productivity just by the fact that he has better personnel around him. Then part two, you were talking about the blocking piece. Well, let's go back to Florida. They didn't ask him to block. So
No.
if that's a consideration
Nope.
that you're not asked to actually show pace, then why would you develop that? However, you get to the league and you understand that it's something different because, like you said, if there is an opportunity for a run play and this can get additional yards, move the chains or what have you, then you've got to be able to do that. And I do think as well, when you have trusted veterans like Anthony Ferguson behind you to kind of tell you the importance of adding those pieces to your game, I do think that helps as well. And yeah, I definitely appreciate what he's done. And one more thing, when you're looking across at wide receiver one / target number two, and he's out there blocking, you might want to do the same thing.
No doubt about it. You don't want Kyle Pitts to outdo you in that particular category.
Right.
That's for sure. Because we all know why he's here. He's here because he can catch touchdowns, he can run great routes, and he is a mismatch as soon as he steps on the field. But so when you add that blocking piece, I think Arthur Smith is that's gonna open up the offense so much. People are gonna be like, dang, I didn't know he was this great of a play caller. Yeah, it's only so much stuff you can call when you're limited to, the talent, the surrounding talent, and you have a guy who hasn't necessarily, flourished in a certain area that you need him to. So I think the Falcons will be okay in that piece. Now, one quick piece. Now, Marlon Davidson has been reports that he had to get his knee scoped, and he will be out for the rest of the preseason. We talked about Marcell Ozuna being done in the city of Atlanta, obviously for different reasons. Are we talking about Marlon Davidson being done for the Falcons? Is he not going to be able to play this year?
Yeah, and I'm going to make this quick. Yes, we're done. Because at the end of the day, you're talking about somebody who's never really shown up the way we'd hoped he would when he was drafted out of Auburn, when he was drafted in the second round. However, you're seeing Taquan Graham slowly but surely pick it up. Seems like the Falcons are pleased with what he's doing. Seems like they're actually pleased low-key with what Timothy Horn has been able to do as well. And then you're starting to have, I know that there were some, unfortunate situations earlier in the training camp where one player retires, one player goes down for the season, so on and so forth. But you're seeing D tackles, you're seeing that line, people are stepping up. And so I don't know if his body is going to allow him to ever be that guy. But if you want to over under on whether or not we ever see Marlon Davidson hit the field, especially as a starter for the Falcons, or if you want to over under on whether or not Kyle Pitts is going to get more than one touchdown, go on and over that. Then you want to go to betonline.net because that's your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. And you know what? Even if you're one of those people who's kind of petty, maybe you go and see if they have information on the over under or Marcell Ozuna ever playing for the Atlanta Braves again. That's the kind of information when there are sports developments for teams and there are league reviews and news that you want to figure out how to use for your betting. Go to betonline.net. And it's not just about the NFL, Major League Baseball, or the NBA. It's about niche sports too. So MMA, boxing, and golf, all of it. They've got your information. So, as we always say, your first stop should always be ATL Day Ones, but make sure your second stop after the show is betonline.net because that is where the game starts. And I feel like, Jarvis, where the game has started for the Braves is this series with the Mets at Truist Park. I believe that they really showed up to say, you know what? If anybody in the NL East is going to be the first to win a series against the Mets this season, it's going to be us. And so they shook off that 9-7 loss, which again, they were in that game right down to the final out.
They competed, yes.
That off, and they came right back and they made a wonderful statement. And it's interesting because it was kind of this situation of, I feel like there were two key factors. One was the pitching duel. Man, it was beautiful to see Max Fried and Jacob
Amazing.
back and
Amazing.
forth. But then it was the speed and the versatility that you saw from, as we always call them, the young core, the young bucks. And Michael Harris II steps up to that plate after, of course, Austin Riley had gotten a run, Dansby Swanson had gotten it. But to see what MH2 and Vaughn Grissom were able to do in that seventh inning. MH2 hits that hard double. Grissom is at first base, and like you always say, Uncle Ronnie is waving him around. He's winding it up, winding it up, and Grissom's going for it. And there you have it. That's your game-winning run. So I'm telling you, it just seems like the confidence is there. And, I got to ask, do you think that what we're seeing is really the kind of confidence that you hope will take these Braves into another division title, a playoff run? We said it earlier. It's about momentum. Alex Anthopoulos said it this week recently. They got their swag back. Do they have it?
Yes, I think so. And the main reason why, or the driving factor, because the reason why I think that is because of Brian Snitker. Yeah. Here's why. Because take it back to that moment, right, when Vaughn Grissom got that hit, and Michael Harris was coming to the plate, and they took Jacob deGrom out. And Buck Showalter took Jacob deGrom out, and I'm just like, okay, that's interesting, because Michael Harris, he was 0 for it at the time. I think he got coming to the play. He hadn't gotten a hit all night. So you bring in the relief. I think you bring in Lugo, I believe it was, and he ends up getting a hit. And I'm thinking, like, man, like, that was huge. I think that was huge. And then for Snitker to come back and make the necessary change. AJ Minter, he pitched 2/3 of the inning, and he brought in Marcell Ozuna to go ahead and finish that bad boy. I was like, man, that's amazing use of your bullpen. I think for him to be able to make those necessary decisions in those moments, in those big key moments, I think that I trust Brian Snitker in those moments, and I think that it was a beautiful thing to watch, because I was like, okay, Buck Showalter you take your big boy out. They got two aces. I'm not gonna differentiate between two. Scherzer and deGrom, both of them the aces. Like, I ain't even doing 1A. I'm not gonna even disrespect them like that, because those guys are masterful when they're on the mound. So for Buck Showalter to pull him out there like that, and I was like, and for the Brian Snitker to come right behind that and make the necessary decision.
Right.
And say, hey, this is the decision I'm making. We try to get out of this inning, and we're going to try to win this doggone game. I think that's why I believe wholeheartedly that the Braves are on their way to winning this division. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I believe that wholeheartedly they can get this bad boy done.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's a great point you make, just pointing to what Brian Snitker was able to do in his decision making, because you look at the day before, right, in the 9-7 loss, and there were some people who were kind of questioning his decision because of Stevens, and they were within one run, and all of a sudden he gives up 3 runs in that game. So the question was, well, why didn't you bring out Kenley Jansen? And he kind of intimated, Brian Snitker did, that, hey, he's kind of looking at how to preserve that bullpen and really his overall pitching staff in the stretch run down to the postseason, right? However, like you said, he was also looking at this game 4 and saying, hey, if I have I need
to keep some in the chamber.
Yeah, I'm disappointed about that 9-7 loss, but I still think that Max Fried is going to give me what he needs to give me, which was 7 solid innings. And then all I need to do is, like you said, plug in an AJ, plug in an Iglesias, and Kenley Jansen, bring it home for me, and we're good here. So, yeah, I think they definitely the decision-making on his part was definitely impressive. And then you think to yourself this. Now, any of us who have a situation that's high intensity and high risk, high reward, once you get through it and you win, you're on the other side, it's like, whoo, you kind of say to yourself, whoo, what am I going to do now for the next thing? And then the next thing is tomorrow night, which for them is tonight, where they got to take on the Astros. It's a rematch from the World Series last year. And you might say to yourself, okay, did they expend the emotional and physical energy that they needed to get within 3.5 games of the Mets that may cost them for this Astros series? Or do you think that they will have that energy, that momentum that we just talked about, that will allow them to just keep pressing on and be the team who's won 9 of the last 10 games?
I think they'll be able to push through it, because if you look at the heroes from last night, they were rookies. Vaughn Grissom, Michael Harris is second. Like, we're not even talking about, Ronald Acuna hit a 3-run bomb to win the game. No, we're not even talking about that. We're talking about rookies, which you're getting production and getting clutchness, based off from guys who really don't even know like what to expect right now. So you think that you will continue to get that veteran leadership, because you talk about Austin Riley and Dansby Swanson getting hits with 2 outs and 2 strikes
Right.
on them, and I'm just like, these dudes have just been so clutch throughout this to be able to win 3 out of 4 against the Mets. So I think that this is nothing but momentum, and momentum. Yeah, I can't say that again. Don't ask me to say that again.
That might be a little difficult for you, but what I do want you to speak on, as you speak on almost every day, is what Coffee AM does for you, especially when you look out on this dreary day and how it might get you going.
Yeah, when you think about Coffee AM, guys, I'm telling you, each and every day, I talk about it till I'm blue in the face. T knows, understands. I get at 4:00 in the morning every morning, because I got to get my workout on. And you know what? When I need to pick me up, because some days I'm struggling. Some days I'm just like, oh my God, man, what is going on? I still got about 7 to 8 more hours to go in the day. I need to pick me up. So guess what I do? I go right upstairs. I go into my little stash of Coffee AM, and I grab that, that crunch. It's that black silk coffee. I love those bad boys. Sometimes I might get me a K cup. Some of the Kenya AA coffee. I absolutely love it. It's one of my absolute favorites. I actually I've run out of K cups because I've used every last one of them. So here's what. I think that, what Coffee AM is doing really well. They got a very special deal just for you. All you got to do is type into find your little keyboard, right? However you surf the internet, go to that. Start typing in coffeeam.com/locked on. I ain't go to the www, because we old. We ain't on that phase. We've moved past that. coffeeam.com/locked on, and I want you to drop in that coupon code box, locked on. Whew. It's gonna be hard to remember that one, I guess. Drop in the coupon code box, locked on. You're gonna get 15% off all coffees, teas, and gift sets on your first purchase. So make sure you do that. Go to coffeeam.com/locked on. Drop in the code locked on. You're gonna get 15% off. Go ahead and pull up on the best small batch coffee roaster in America. So T, I think that we're talking about pulling up on Coffee AM, the best small batch coffee roaster in the country. I think that we're gonna take a little trip outside of the country, because I think this was something that was very interesting, right? My main man. What's up? Got my name out. I can make sure I get his name right, because he is a guy, Robert Lewandowski.
Yes.
Plays for Barcelona. He was right outside his Barcelona. They were at practice. He was kind of doing the thing, taking some pictures with the crowd and kind of, chilling and doing his thing, right? So apparently somebody ran up on him and took his watch. The only thing about the watch, I know you probably saying to yourself, watch. No, ain't no big deal. But this one was $71,000. Excuse me. And I definitely don't want to short my man. $71,000 watch worth. The watch was worth. The man, somebody ran up on him, took it, and thankfully they were able to catch him. But I don't know what would I do in that particular situation, because when you think about 70 grand and somebody just running up on you like that, man, Mr. Lewandowski is a lot better than me, because if I would have been able to get my hands on him, yeah, it would have been some smoke.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, how did this happen? And then my mind actually went to one of the most recent Falcons practices. We were at open practice last Saturday, and I'm thinking, we see the players, they go and they interact with some of the fans, but granted, probably don't have on their best watch per se, but a lot of them do wear some nice jewelry. But I'm like, who would be bold enough? Especially, I'm thinking about my first thought, because he's so engaged with the fans, is CP. Like, who is going to pull up on Cordero Patterson, and attempt to take anything off his person? So whoever did that to Robert Lewandowski, first of all, you are bold. You are really, really bold. But on the same token, I guess for me, I'm not about to be out there amongst the fans, amongst people I don't know, with my $70,000 watch on. Like, that's just not what I'm about to do. Now, if he's in, when we had the access, and I think we'll get it back this year, but when we had access to the locker room post game, that's different, because it's just as reporters who are in there with you, and there are PR people and probably some plainclothes security. Let's just be honest. But ultimately speaking, that's the thing that for me, I was like, that's just not smart. You're just not wise with that decision making.
and especially since they've had issues with security before.
Yes.
So that's the thing. Like that's why you
That's why I
really
was
make you
like,
want to
where's
answer
security?
like,
Where's security?
bro, don't you understand? Like you haven't heard, like you think you're untouchable? Like, nah, that's not a good mindset to have
At
when
all.
you're talking about somebody who makes a buku amounts of money. So I think that I'm pretty sure he's learned his lesson. Like when you're at training grounds and at practice, keep your stuff in your whip. But because they said Barker is trying to improve the security. So hopefully they'll get to a situation where they understand like, hey, we have to invest in, making sure our players are safe. And our players also have to say, you know what? I don't have to wear my $70,000 watch to practice today.
You really don't. You can just leave it in the safe. I'm assuming because with Falcons and Hawks, they both have those safes, and I think actually Braves do as well in the
Right.
locker room where you can put your stuff and you can grab it after a game or after practice. You might want to do that next time. Good
Yeah, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you might have to, take
luck.
somebody out. You don't want to do that. Yeah, you don't want to be in that particular situation. Speaking of, just thinking about what's going on, today is this very special day, T. We talked about, how, the prices of wings yesterday had gone down, but today is National Potato Day. I don't know about you, T, but I like to enjoy myself a good old baked potato with
No,
some
okay.
cheese and some sour cream and some what's the little green onions like chopped
The
up and
time,
everything on
yeah.
like that. Yeah, like the chive. I'm sorry. There we go. Sour cream and chive. Yeah, come on, Jarvis. But what about you? What type of how you like your potato? I used to be French fries, but as I got older, I really get excited about a loaded baked potato.
Well, you know what? I'm still then a 12-year-old because I'm still all about the yeah. Fry the darn potatoes. You want to fry them in like the little. Want to make them French fries? You want to make them tater tots? You want to make them hash browns? I don't really care. Just fry it as a potato, and I'm good to go. Now,
Ready to
there's
roll.
something that'll tell you guys that yes, I grew up in the country, right? And so there's an Irish potato stew that my grandmother makes or used to make. Yeah, and I actually have that recipe in a recipe book she made for me. And it's literally you take the potato and you cut it into like thin slices and you use a brown gravy that you can either create a roux yourself or you can get some McCormick brown gravy, whatever the case may be. And then you take beef sausage and you stew that and you put that over a bed of rice. It's actually killer. I
Ooh.
know it sounds a little country, but it is
No, that sounds
actually
tempting.
killer. It is a great thing to do with your potatoes, or going back to my fried potatoes, you can also do it dry without the gravy mix, and you put it in a cast iron skillet. Same ingredients, but you're going to take it and you're going to make chunks instead of flat pieces, and then you're going to take that same beef sausage and mix it in with onions, and boom, still put it over rice. A little bit country, but I bet you want to try it.
Yeah, I know. I'm already trying to figure out like, all right, let me see, give me some potatoes, give me some onions, some sausage. I think
Right.
I got all that in my refrigerator now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm down for that. So I think it's something that definitely should honor potato day. Go out and get yourself some French fries. Go get you a baked potato if you like me.
Right.
I
Or
think
some
it'll
mashed
definitely.
potatoes. Yeah.
Yeah,
For those who
yeah.
like mashed potatoes, when you put a little remix on them and they call them, smashed potatoes, I think those are really good too.
Yeah, yeah. You got to work with all of what you got. That's for sure. I think that, but T, I think he's something that you wanted to kind of get on, or talk about before we got out of here today, because it
Sure.
is a Friday, so it's gonna be a couple of days before we get back on. So go ahead and get what you need to say off your chest.
Yeah. And, let me preface by saying this. I am always excited when places like McDonald's recognize that there is a need for honoring and supporting students who are off to college, right? Because
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
students are, as we speak, matriculating back to school. So I appreciate McDonald's effort. However, sometimes I wonder if corporate America continues to have a blind spot. And my answer would be yes, you do. So recently, McDonald's announced that in partnership with Roland Martin, they will be, and it's the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund. And
Mm-hmm.
so they will be literally awarding scholarships to, I don't know, about seven worthy students. And it's for the 2022-23 school year. Yep, seven scholars. It'll be need based, right? And you can get up to $15,000 in that scholarship. And, we could have used that back in the day, right?
Yes, I could have had $15,000 less in loans.
Exactly. Speak on it, Jarvis. Speak on it. Speak on it. And so, in concept, in theory, I absolutely love it. Here's my problem with it. And also, they recognize that he is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He is a lifetime member. So, again, kudos to Roland Martin for being a part of such an amazing program. But if this is for HBCU students, are you telling me that you could not find a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated who was an esteemed graduate of an HBCU, much like Thurgood Marshall himself, who went to Howard University for undergrad as well as law, and was, of course, our first and only real African American male on the Supreme Court? So, that being said, I do have a problem with that blind spot, and that is no offense to Roland Martin, but that is offensive to members of the D9, meaning all of the Greek letter organizations, the fraternities, and the sororities, who clearly could have been selected from one of these HBCUs, which, by the way, the majority of them were founded at an HBCU. So again, for your people who are in diversity, inclusion, and equity, for the McDonald's.
That new department.
Yes.
That new department.
I, folks, at McDonald's, I just want you to reset this and rethink this for the 2023-2024 academic year. Just saying. And you know why I get to say that? Because this is for the culture, where we'll talk about sports, we'll talk about entertainment, but that right there was whatever the heck I wanted to talk about. So, that being said, everybody, from an HBCU graduate, Xavier University of Louisiana, and a D9 member, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, have a great weekend. And when you guys come back, we'll give you more for the culture. But also, we so hope that we're able to talk about the Braves getting another series win. If there's more information on Ozuna, we are going to download on it. And
Yes.
Of course, we're going to get you guys ready for preseason game number 2 between the Falcons and the Jets for Monday Night Football. You guys have a great weekend.
Y'all come back now, you hear? I'm going to take y'all out with a little reporter who was just struggling his life out trying to ask a question, and then enjoy the laughter.
I think that your best feature is, you're a big back, you're good run back, basically.
Y'all come back now, you hear?